the UFC is using stealth tactics to cover up their antitrust lawsuit and keep it out of the public eye. Stick around to hear my thoughts. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. All right, guys. So if you're a non-casual and you're actually in the know about some of the drama that has been going on in regards to the UFC for years now with this building class action antitrust lawsuit, you guys may have seen over the past few months quotes from Dana White and the Fertittas of text messages that came out during the discovery period of this lawsuit, where they called John Jones a shitty employee, I believe. I'll put them up on the screen, but they talk shit about John Jones. They talked about choking out Eddie Alvarez and suffocate them till they tap out. And that's in regards to their pay. So that antitrust lawsuit filed by former fighters saying that the UFC used illegal and unethical tactics to suppress fighters, knock down lower organizations, competing organizations, and lower fighters' pay and not allow them to negotiate elsewhere. Now, very well-known MMA journalism outlet, Bloody Elbow, that has been around for years and years, covered, some of the not so great sides of the UFC. They have been writing articles updating everybody about this antitrust lawsuit through the discovery period, while details come out, documents get leaked in regards to the discovery phase. And now it looks like the UFC has been using some stealth tactics, in my opinion. I don't want to get sued or taken down. In my opinion, my interpretation of this is that the UFC funded a small media company to buy out Bloody Elbow, and then to buy out Bloody Elbow, they laid off a large majority of the staff and wiped the antitrust lawsuit articles from the website. So this tweet originally from Trent Rainsmith says, right now, it looks as if the folks that are in charge of Bloody Elbow, GRV Media, have deleted the site's stories on the info gathered from the antitrust lawsuit. Someone here then responds and says, the UFC potentially using stealth tactics by funding a relatively small media company to purchase Bloody Elbow and instantly pulling all the financial and antitrust articles from the site. So effing crazy. And guys, I'm going to link these Reddit posts and tweets in the description down below. So if you want to check them out for yourself, go ahead. Here we have another tweet that is from Anton. I'm sorry if I get your name wrong. Anton Tabuena says MMA writer. He's a MMA writer, former managing editor of Bloody Elbow, and former, emphasis on former. He posts a screenshot of all of his features in regards to the payouts that have been leaked, the disclosed payouts of people like John Jones, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Uriah Faber, I believe. And he says, here are just some of my features from the past few months alone that were part of the thousands that they wiped. I think our team produced great work at Bloody Elbow, and I'm gutted that the brand we've worked so hard to build for the last 15 years was just sold and thrown away. And you can see many of these articles that are in here. They include special clauses for McGregor, Rousey, unique contracts of Uriah Faber and Holly Holm revealed, UFC fighters currently in private mediation. Does Dana White tell the truth? This is how the UFC CEO answered under oath. And then a couple other ones, payouts for Diaz Bros, nearly 50 UFC stars and champs released, more payouts and UFC champion payouts released. You see Brock Lesnar payouts, Ronda Rousey payouts, Jose Aldo payouts, Nate Diaz. And these had to do with the lawsuit, which I believe was from 2013 to 2016 is the time that they're focusing on here. The UFC obviously wants these things covered up. And with good reason. They have the ESPN deal that is extremely mainstream. And for the most part, the other mainstream sports that ESPN covers and mainstream sports, football, baseball, basketball, they have their own scandals, but they aren't necessarily in antitrust lawsuits. And so this could get very hairy for the UFC. I believe that the lawsuit, I'll confirm as well, the lawsuit is worth $1.6 billion against the UFC. And with it being upped to class action status, I believe that this means that that value could get tripled, which would put it at $4.8 billion. I don't think this would bankrupt the UFC, but this would be a huge financial hole for the TKO Holdings Group and WMG. Is that who owns them? WMG? Endeavor? WME. I'm sorry. WME. You know, Ari Emanuel is runs that company. And guys, look, the UFC does shady stuff. The fight business is shady. Fighters have been screwed by promoters and executives since the beginning of time, even going back to when the mob was deeply involved in boxing. And that's why the Ali Act had to even go into place. Now, here's another article, or another tweet, I apologize, that says, "This really sucks. Bloody elbow content on the UFC antitrust lawsuits and several other original journalistic works from recent ones to years ago have been deleted or removed. I hope this is not the final nail to the coffin of MMA journalism." And if you search antitrust, and I did this myself too, if you search antitrust on Bloody Elbow, it says, "Sorry, no results were found," or it says error 404, page not found. And I'm sorry again with your name, former managing editor of Bloody Elbow, Anton Tabuena. And I'm going to try to get this guy to call into the show. I am going to try to get this guy on the show. That's what I want to do. I want to hear his thoughts on this. So the news is out. Nate sold Bloody Elbow and the entire staff was laid off. I see that Bloody Elbow is still running, but I'm no longer managing editor and it won't have the team that built it. They also deleted not just my business, finance, and law posts, but everything I wrote for the last 15 years. Imagine you work 15 years building a company. Wow. You spend 15 years building a company, working very hard on these things. And then as a result of the UFC trying to cover up their own wrongdoing, they wipe your work. So Anton, I'm going to try to get you to call into the show, but this is crazy stuff, guys. This is really crazy stuff. Now, it could be an iceberg for the UFC in regards to their financials and their public image. And this is something that I'm going to look into deeper. I might even do a series on this. I'm going to try to get some interviews in regards to this, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, I have leaned towards anti-Dana White in a lot of my videos, but that's not just for the sake of a contrarian standpoint. You know, I have a ton of respect and I am a fan of Ariel Helwani. I love watching his channel and I love watching his show, but I feel that the way that he was screwed by the UFC and ousted by them, and the way that his name has been slandered, in my opinion, by Dana White throughout the years. And this would happen to me too. It causes him to have a very anti-UFC bias from his own personal standpoint. For me, I wasn't a UFC fighter. I have never worked for the UFC in any capacity. I am literally just an MMA fan with a channel that is very interested. I love this sport and I love covering the insides and outs of this. I love the fighters as well. They put their lives on the line for our entertainment every single Saturday. They provide the most entertaining sport that has ever existed. It is Roman gladiator type shit. We know this. I'm not trying to stroke them too hard. But the way that the UFC and Dana White have built their fortune on the backs of underpaid fighters is just not right. And for them to then go and cover up their own wrongdoings, this is really scummy corporate CEOs trying to cover up their wrongdoings. Like Roger Ailes type shit. If you guys don't know the story of Roger Ailes, the former Fox News CEO, look into that. And obviously Dana White is not accused of any sexual wrongdoing in the way that Roger Ailes was, but Roger Ailes was, abusing and mistreating and taking advantage of his employees at Fox News and the news anchors, the on-camera talent, and then was trying to cover it up. He was eventually ousted and, the truth came out. We'll see if the truth ends up becoming widespread known about the UFC and Dana White. But I thought this was really interesting to talk about. This was really mind-blowing to me. Actually, no, fuck that. It wasn't. It's not mind-blowing to me. This is exactly what I expect from somebody like Dana White and from a fight promoter. Not even just Dana White, just fight promoters in general. Oscar De La Hoya's shitty too. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think comes of this antitrust lawsuit? What are your thoughts on this type of covert actions to cover up? And let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. This is some crazy, crazy shit. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. If you like this video and you want more content just like this, click that subscribe button down below. If you want more content from me, go check out my weekly comedy podcast, the Hissyfit podcast, and go check out my personal channel, Wyatt's World. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.